Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Roundup, where I've got a bunch of exciting, interesting, and in one case, honestly, pretty damn sad stories. So, Battle Mage, Intel's new line of GPUs, which, to be honest, a lot of us had been seeing as like, oh, finally, a third party is going to enter the market, and yeah, they've had teething issues, but of course they have. It's their first release. So it's kind of sad that we maybe have bad news for their next release. We've got Sega of America unionizing. We've actually got really good news for John Halo, which we do not normally talk about. We have a swatter being sentenced, we have exoprimal things, and we have a little bit about Battlebit. But let's get it started with Sega of America staff voting to unionize. Pretty simple, right? Sega are the latest effort for worker unionization in the USA, and it's actually the largest in the industry. 186 staff at Sega of America had the opportunity to vote. 91 said yes, 26 no, 19 votes were challenged, and 3 were voided. That does mean it was a majority. And yes, they will be given the opportunity to go and form their union. Now, this is a group that was not proactively recognized by Sega management. At the time, their president said, "Union matters are new to me and Sega of America, and we are investigating and considering the options available to the company." And they call themselves the Allied Employees Guild Improving Sega, or Aegis. Ho-ho! Hey, gotta hand it to the Americans. They love a good acronym. Yeah, and they're also a part of the wider umbrella of the CWA, who, if you've been, say, paying attention to the Activision Blizzard story, you will recognize. Now, they are, of course, still in the midst of negotiations with Activision and Microsoft as a part of some of their efforts at Raven Software, and also some stuff with ZeniMax. So, look, good step. At the end of the day, we always get pissed off at buggy games. The industry keeps on treating QA staff in a really shitty way, so the more that they don't get to screw over the QA staff, then maybe our games will have better quality assurance. Or at least one would hope so. Next, 2 bits of sad news. One, I'm going to spend about 10 seconds saying, hey, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Loads of people don't because you just kind of rely on the homepage maybe showing you a video, but if you do, then you'll get more of the news, perhaps even when it's news. And now that I've actually taken up more than 10 seconds of your time, the second bit of bad news, which is about Intel Battle Mage. So, Moore's Law is dead, who are an outlet. They've reported that, yeah, actually, the next generation of Intel Battle Mage cards may not be as good as we had hoped, right? There had been a lot of hopes that the next Battle Mage generation would have, or the next generation Battle Mage would have been way more competitive against Nvidia. I forget what it was called after Battle Mage. It had a really cool codename though, but people were then even more full of hope that perhaps, okay, Battle Mage solidifies their position. The thing after that truly is going to be competition. Well, per Moore's Law is dead, the most powerful Battle Mage card is now reportedly being fitted with fewer execution units than the current Arc A770 GPU, and only 3 cards are going to be in the range overall. Now, for some reference here, initial rumors suggested the plan had been for the Battle Mage series to have cards starting to release in summer of 2024 with comparable performance to a 4080. Now, as PC Gamer are noting, the A770 is only really reaching like the 3060 Ti, and that is on a good day. So that's basically where we're at. I really hope Intel sticks with this. I mean, not that I'll be able to change their mind, but I really implore them to actually stick to it here. Gamers are hungry for an option that is not Nvidia. And yes, FSR2 is not as good as DLSS 2. I think there is another like Intel DLSS competitor. Apple's DLSS competitor is pretty much as good as DLSS 2, which is pretty crazy. Anyway, Intel, please stick with this. Nvidia are just, like, apart from the DLSS 3 advantage, people want them to be dethroned. People don't want to feel like they can only buy a card that supports DLSS 3, or that the only thing that will run the games that they want within the price range they care about is a card equipped with DLSS 3. DLSS 3, because Nvidia, instead of pushing, at least at the mid and bottom end of their product range, they're not pushing large generational improvements in raw horsepower. They're not doing that. Instead, they're just relying on DLSS 3, which is just not cool, right? So, man, it's worrying. I really hope Intel stay here, because you see, with the A770, like, its launch was widely considered to be a bloody disaster. The Intel, chief architect basically said, listen, we're not abandoning the range. And then over the lifespan of Arc, as I told you, it just got vastly, vastly better. I mean, come on, Nvidia are stuck here at like 70% market share. We now have 3 major people in this space. Come on, something's got to give. Next, John Halo and good news. I know, what a shocker. This time it's for the Mass Effect. Whoa. This time it's for the Master Chief Collection. So here's the deal. 343 Industries and a crack team of modders under the Dig site name have spent the last year basically compiling all the stuff they could out of the production records of the original Halo games. And it's just a treasure trove of content, and this old cut content is making it into Master Chief Collection, which is really nice. So for Halo 1, we've got 4 maps, including a biome tester for, of course, the Macworld 1999 demo. And yeah, by the way, Halo was initially going to be a Mac real-time strategy game. Didn't turn out that way. Then for Halo 2, 21 maps. There are 21 new maps coming to Halo 2, including several that were previously only available via leaks, one of those being called Human Sample. Isn't that sweet? For Halo CE, we've got a new weapon, the assault rifle with grenade launcher, and also the SMG. Both of these actually had to be rigged from scratch, because previously they only existed for the originally planned third-person gameplay of Halo. Again, this was back for, like, you know, original Halo Combat Evolved. Absolute madness. I mean, look at this. Third-person Master Chief. Isn't that crazy? 11 vehicles have been added for Combat Evolved. Some of these were taken from the campaign and old devlogs. We've got 3 vehicles for Halo 2. The Halo 2 Mongoose, Uber Chassis, and a tiny warthog called the Piglet. So isn't that kind of cute? As well as reworked animations for the sniper rifle, SMG, and BR. So that's all really cool. They've also just restored a ton of lost assets and tools too. This is all stuff modders can go completely wild on. And this includes stuff that was intended for Halo, the real-time strategy game. There's also 4 cut enemy assets, like whatever this might be, whatever these dudes might be. It's so weird. It's like, we've all played Halo, but what's this? Yeah, just sick. And this is only the first of these releases. They're going to be doing more as time goes on. And, you know, of course, they're going to be adding as much as they can to Master Chief Collection, like, so it's fully playable, and also, of course, just giving these to the modding community so that they have more assets to play with, which is absolutely sweet. Next, then, swatting. Swatting is not cool. So, do you remember back in 2020 when Ubisoft's Montreal offices and staff were subject to swatting? Well, if you didn't, it did happen. Pretty crazy scenes, actually. I mean, look at that. There they are, stacking up at the doors of Ubisoft. So basically what happened, right? I think they're from France. Yeah, Parisian, I think. The swatter basically got banned several times from Rainbow Six Siege. And because of that, swatted Ubisoft Montreal. They have got a 3-year sentence that they can, I believe, spend community. So I suppose that's like community service or something. Anyway, bit of a cautionary tale. I imagine in other places you might actually get a little bit more for swatting, just given the like the levels of danger involved. There have been swatting instances that have ended in, like, you know, innocent fatalities, right? Which is, you know, the worst of the worst. So it is serious stuff. Next then, and decidedly a bit less serious, we've got Exoprimal. Here we go from swatting to fighting dinosaurs. Yes, Exoprimal comes out July 14th, and ahead of that, they've actually taken to Twitter to clarify things that we'd all been a little bit confused about. The game is a multiplayer game. It's launching on all platforms, including Game Pass on PC and console. People then wondered about crossplay. So, you can play Exoprimal with people in different systems. However, you can't party up with your friends on different platforms. So the game essentially has its party options being split down platform lines, which I suppose does make sense, but when it comes to matchmaking, it is just everybody. And that's an important thing for a game like this, that realistically, outside of a Game Pass release, given that it's like a, you know, it's not a free-to-play, it'd be quite hard for a game like Exoprimal to find its critical mass. Anyway, some people were pretty confused because Exoprimal requires that people sign up with their Capcom ID. So people were kind of wondering, like, Why can't we all play if we're just using our Capcom ID? But even though that does make sense, I imagine there's just BS between all the different platforms that makes that not be a thing that you can do. And of course it's weird because this is something previously we never would have thought about. It's like, yeah, you have the game on a different console. Of course I can't play with you. But in this new world of crossplay, it is different. Even take a game like Darktide. Its most recent update actually finally added crossplay between Steam and Xbox Game Pass, and that was 8 months after launch, where I knew loads of people who got it in Game Pass because I had Game Pass already. I then knew loads of people who had it in Steam because that's where where they buy their games and they don't have Game Pass. They just couldn't play with each other, which felt bizarre because that was different platforms on the same bit of hardware. What a mess. And I suppose when I think about of course, we got Tim Apple. We, of course, have got Tim Sweeney of Epic, or we could just call him Tim Epic. Him talking about Steamworks, right, for multiplayer. And it's like, yeah, if your game uses Steamworks multiplayer, that's going to be a bit of a challenge if you're going anywhere else. It's just that Steam's a monopoly, which, is really convenient because, Gabe is a benevolent dictator, but it still is a really high market share for, like, one group to have, isn't it? Now, it's not like it completely shuts it down. You can, do stuff with the Steamworks API, I believe. It's just that it doesn't integrate well by default. But anyway, it's the sort of stuff that Tim Sweeney was bringing up. Finally then, Battlebit remastered some stuff from those devs. I like this. They've been speaking to the How to Market a Game blog, and they've been reflecting upon their success. Here's a quote. "If you are planning to make a multiplayer game, don't. I'm not going to lie, don't. Make a single-player game if this is your first game. It is very trying. If you're going to, except you are going to be slammed by a hammer." This is from a developer of a extremely successful game that I believe has crossed like 2 million units, which is that is AAA numbers being achieved by an indie. I mean, I imagine EA with Battlefield are just thinking, yeah, we do Battlefield and their numbers are in the millions. What? In fair play to Battlefield 2042, they have actually made that a vastly better experience. One of those things. That game was always doomed because of EA things. Didn't really matter what the developers have done, but thankfully, the developers have actually been able to stick with that game, which is pretty cool. Anyway, reflecting on Battlebit, they were really in a modding background, right? But they were modding games that very much, you can see the Battlebit DNA in. Here is Ravenfield. And again, you see this whole thing of like a very, lo-fi shooter? Like, that stuff works. 57,700 reviews. And remember, you generally want to multiply the number of reviews by like 25 to 50. And I know that's an insane range, but kind of varies for every game. So really working atop of good success. And that's how a lot of the industry works. You know this phrase? Standing on the shoulders of giants? Absolutely do. Don't try to be, your own personal Kojima. I mean, hey, it can be cool to have an awesome idea, and I'm not encouraging people to not have good ideas. There are definitely times where taking something really good and iterating it on it in a direction that like you as a player really feel you wanted to go in, that can be a really good way to start when you're making games. Absolutely. Now, their blog goes through the development details, but basically they started in 2016, building it in completely open development with a chosen few fans of their existing mods. They basically ran small-scale tests, they built up their relationships with content creators. That, of course, all helped them to build their audience, because as much as we only find out about a game overnight when it explodes, you always have to think of all the work that went into getting a game into that position. Because if you just, made Battlebit and silently dropped it, it wouldn't go down like that. So they basically, from all of that, were learning a lot of skills. They were rethinking how they were framing aspects of their game. As an example, they walked away from the original very milsim core in favor of actually making the game be a little bit more casual. And now, of course, if you play Battlebit, you'll see yeah, this is definitely more casual, but it has this milsim DNA in it. And it turns out that milsim DNA just allows for really cool moments. Even the way that the proximity voice chat works, the voice chat whenever you die. They actually revealed that it took until 2020, with 4 years of constant development, to get to the point where they were making 23 grand on Patreon, and they were having 100 players on their test server. Then they scaled up rapidly in 2022, of course, to their eventual success in 2023. But it's just that thing, whenever people look at Battlebit and they're like, hey, look, 3 people just dethroned Battlefield. Huh, Why don't EA make it good then? Turns out there's actually a lot more blood, sweat, and tears behind it. Absolutely, though. You know, they've been through a tough time, and thankfully and this is a rare thing in game development, but they truly have hit the jackpot. So, grats to them. Hope you found today's video to be fun, to be entertaining. There will be another one tomorrow. There was one yesterday, so check out what's on the channel. Be sure to subscribe. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.